The more successful you become, the less safe you are. Not because of your enemies, but because of the people smiling at you. Listen carefully. You are one of the few ready to hear this right now. The problem is simple. You are living a lie. You think they love you, your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors. After all, you are always polite, always ready to support them, and they smile back. It even seems sincere, but here is the truth that Niccolò Machiavelli saw centuries ago. The love you receive is nothing more than a calculated performance. You have probably felt it before, that strange cold shiver in a room full of smiling faces. Your psyche requires you to feel safe, to trust the person sitting across from you. But look closer. We have been blinded by comfort. We have forgotten that in the wild, the predator doesn't growl until it's too late. It mimics. It blends in. It waits for you to turn your back. You have likely sensed that your success doesn't inspire them. It burns them. To them, your rise is an insult. Your light makes their shadows darker. They don't want to be like you. They want you to be like them. Small, weak, forgotten. Today we strip away the decorations. No more polite lies. We are entering the mind of the man who knew that it is better to be feared than loved. You have felt the knife of betrayal before. Now we will show you how to see it coming. We will explain why every hand you shake is secretly measuring your grave. Stop seeking affection. Start seeking power. Because in a world of wolves, the only thing more dangerous than a hater is a friend who hasn't found their moment to strike. We need to talk about the sin you didn't know you were committing. The sin of being better. In the eyes of the masses, your achievement is not a victory. It is an act of aggression. Every time you win, you aren't just climbing a ladder. You are stepping on the fingers of those below you. You have probably felt that toxic atmosphere after a promotion, a new purchase, or a moment of public recognition. The room goes quiet. The smiles become tighter. Your psyche requires you to think that your hard work should inspire others. You want them to say, "If he can do it, I can too." But that is a fantasy. For most people, your success is a mirror, a cold, unforgiving mirror that reflects their own laziness, their own failures, and their own cowardice. Machiavelli understood that humans are masters of self-deception. No one wants to admit they are mediocre. So when you stand before them as a living proof of excellence, they have two choices. They can change themselves, which is painful and difficult, or they can hate you, which is easy and instant. We must accept this brutal classification of the social hierarchy. First, there is the hate of the weak. They despise you because you have what they lack: willpower. Second, there is the hate of the equal. They hate you because you broke the pact of mediocrity. You were one of them, and by rising, you betrayed the group. Third, there is the hate of the superior. They hate you because you are a threat to their throne. You have likely sensed that the more perfect you try to be, the more they sharpen their knives. You think being kind will soften the blow of your success. It won't. In fact, your kindness is often seen as the ultimate insult, the pity of a king looking down at his subjects. We have been taught that inequality is a political problem. Machiavelli knew it was a biological one. Inequality is the root of hatred. When you stand taller than the crowd, you aren't just above them. You are an obstacle in their line of sight. You have felt it, that burning gaze in your back when you walk away. That is the envy of the small-minded. Their applause is a lie. Each clap is a muffled scream of resentment. They don't want your advice. They don't want your secrets to success. They want you to stumble. They want to see the gravity of reality pull you back down into the mud where they reside. Your psyche demands validation, but if you seek it from those you have surpassed, you are drinking poison. Their hatred isn't a mistake. It's a reaction. It is the natural response of the weak to the presence of power. Stop apologizing for your light. If it blinds them, let them go blind. In the world of Machiavelli, the only thing worse than being hated for your success is being pitied for your failure. We have looked at the world, we have looked at the masses, but now we must look closer. We must look at the person sitting across from you at dinner. The one who knows your secrets, the one you call friend, Machiavelli warned us that the most dangerous blade is not the one held by your enemy, but the one sharpened by your ally. Why? Because an enemy must break down your walls to reach you. A friend is already inside them. You have probably felt that subtle toxic sting, the joke that went too far, the compliment that felt like a backhanded insult, the silence when you needed a defense. Your psyche requires you to believe in the sanctity of friendship. You want to believe that loyalty is a mountain that cannot be moved. But in the world of power, loyalty is not a mountain, it's a transaction. We must face the cold reality of the inner circle. To Machiavelli, friendship is often nothing more than a temporary alliance of interests. As long as you are useful, you are loved. As long as you are struggling, you are pitied. But the moment you transcend them, that is when the clock starts ticking on your betrayal. You have likely sensed the shifting tides. Think about your best friend. Why are they there? Is it because they love your soul, or is it because your presence validates their own? When you succeed beyond their reach, you break the contract. You were supposed to be equals. By rising, you have committed the ultimate treason. You have outgrown them. We can classify these close betrayals into 3 Machiavellian stages. The information phase. They stay close to learn your weaknesses. They listen to your fears, your shames, and your plans. You think you are opening up. Machiavelli would say you are handing them the map to your fortress. The sabotage phase. It starts small, a seed of doubt planted in your mind. A realistic warning that sounds like advice, but feels like a weight. They aren't protecting you from failure. They are protecting themselves from your success. The strike. This happens when the cost of staying loyal becomes higher than the reward of betrayal. When they can gain more by selling you out than by standing by you, they will do it, and they will convince themselves they are the victim while they do it. You have felt it, the closeness that feels like a cage. Your psyche demands intimacy, but Machiavelli demands vigilance. He reminds us that the people closest to you hate you the most because they have the most to lose from your elevation. Your neighbor's wealth is a distant fact. Your friend's wealth is a personal insult. We must realize that for many, loyalty is just a lack of a better offer. They don't hate you because you are bad. They hate you because your existence proves that they could have been more, but chose not to be. Look at your circle. Who claps the loudest? Machiavelli would tell you to watch their eyes, not their hands. The one who claps the loudest is often the one trying the hardest to hide the sound of their teeth grinding. Your psyche wants to scream that this is too cynical, that not everyone is like that. And you're right, not everyone is, but the wise leader doesn't build his house on the hope of an exception. He builds it on the certainty of the rule. Do not fear the enemy who attacks your gates. Fear the brother who holds the key. In the Machiavellian view, the only way to keep a friend loyal is to make sure their self-interest is inextricably tied to your survival. If they don't need you to win, they will eventually need you to fail. We have spoken of your friends and your neighbors, but to understand the true scale of this hatred, we must look at the gods of history. We must look at the men who dared to be more than human, only to find that the world would never forgive them for it. Machiavelli didn't just invent these theories in a vacuum. He watched the rise and fall of giants. He saw that greatness isn't a shield, it is a target. You have probably felt that same target on your back when you outperform the collective. Your psyche requires you to believe that if you are good enough or great enough, the world will eventually bow in respect. History begs to differ. We look at Julius Caesar, a man who gave Rome everything: security, wealth, and pride. He forgave his enemies. He invited them to his table. He treated his brothers with the mercy of a god. And how did they repay his virtue? With 23 stabs in the dark. Those knives weren't held by strangers. They were held by the men who had smiled at him the day before. You have likely sensed the lesson here. Caesar wasn't killed for his failures. He was killed for his brilliance. His presence made the senators feel small. His shadow was too long, and they were tired of living in it. Machiavelli points to this as the ultimate historical verdict. Greatness is an unforgivable sin. We see it again with Alexander, a man who conquered the known horizon. He led his men to the edge of the world, but as his glory grew, so did the poison in the hearts of his generals. They didn't want a king who was a legend. They wanted a leader they could control. When you become too much for people to handle, their only instinct is to cut you down to a size they can manage. You have felt this in your own life. When you display too much competence, you don't inspire, you intimidate. Your psyche demands that you be recognized, but the masses demand that you be neutralized. Let's classify the Machiavellian price of influence. The tall poppy syndrome. History is a field where the tallest flower is always the first to be decapitated. If you stand out, you are a constant reminder to the average that they have settled for less. The burden of the prophet. Those who bring the light are often burned by it. To lead people toward a better future is to force them to admit their present is a failure. They will hate you for the truth you represent. The inevitability of the ostracism. In ancient Athens, they had a name for this. They would exile their most successful citizens simply because they were too successful. Success was seen as a threat to the balance of mediocrity. We must realize that if you have no enemies, it is because you have done nothing worth noting. If no one is whispering behind your back, you are invisible. If no one is plotting your downfall, you are already at the bottom. You have likely sensed that the most virtuous people in history were the most hated. Why? Because virtue is the ultimate insult to the corrupt. Your honesty is a slap in the face to the liar. Your discipline is a mockery of the lazy. Machiavelli's verdict is cold. If you seek to be a great man or a great woman, you must first build a graveyard for your expectations of being loved. The icons we worship today were the villains of their own time. They were the ones who refused to dim their light to make the small-minded feel comfortable. Your psyche wants to believe there is a way to be powerful and popular. There isn't. You can be a leader, or you can be a cheerleader. You cannot be both. History doesn't remember the people who were liked. It remembers the people who were feared, respected, and above all hated. Because hatred is the only honest reaction to power. Now we arrive at the most uncomfortable truth in the Machiavellian playbook. It is the question that has haunted every leader, every innovator, and every person who has ever held a grain of power. Is it better to be loved or to be feared? You have probably felt the desperate urge to be loved. Your psyche requires the warmth of approval. You want to be the nice boss, the kind friend, the supportive partner. You believe that if you pour enough kindness into people, they will form a shield around you. But Machiavelli would look at your kindness and see a death wish. We must understand the fundamental difference between these two emotions. Love is a bond of obligation. It is a fragile thread woven from the fickle material of gratitude. And what happens to gratitude when it is no longer convenient? It snaps. You have likely sensed this before. The moment you stop being useful to someone, their love for you evaporates like mist in the sun. Love is a contract that the other person can cancel at any time. Fear, however, is a contract that you control. Your psyche demands safety, but love cannot provide it. Love is based on the will of the giver. Fear is based on the dread of the receiver. As Machiavelli famously noted, men love at their own convenience, but they fear at the convenience of the prince. Let's break down the Machiavellian mechanics of fear. The stability of dread. Love is an emotion of the moment. Fear is a calculation of the future. A person who loves you might betray you in a fit of passion or greed. A person who fears you will weigh the cost of betrayal and find it too expensive to pay. The trap of kindness. When you are too kind, you create an environment of entitlement. People don't see your generosity as a gift. They see it as a debt you owe them. The moment you give less, they feel robbed. Their love turns to resentment instantly. The surgical strike. Machiavelli never advocated for cruelty for the sake of cruelty. That is the mark of a fool. He advocated for effective fear. It is the threat of the blade, not the constant drawing of blood, that keeps the peace. You have felt the exhaustion of trying to keep everyone happy. It's a race you can never win. We are here to tell you to stop running. We must realize that fear is not about being a villain. It is about being a predictable force of nature. If people know exactly where the line is, and they know exactly what happens when they cross it, they will respect the boundary. That respect is more durable than any friendship built on the shifting sands of affection. The most likable people are often the most easily trampled. They are the ones who are passed over for promotions, the ones whose boundaries are ignored, the ones who are eventually hated, simply because they are too weak to be respected. Your psyche wants to recoil from this. You want to say, "But I want to be a good person." Machiavelli's response is simple. Be good when you can, but know how to be not good when the situation demands it. To be a leader is to be a guardian of order, and order is not maintained by hugs. It is maintained by the certainty of consequences. We classify the world into two groups: those who are paralyzed by the need for affection, and those who are liberated by the utility of fear. Stop asking, "Do they like me?" Start asking, "Do they dare to cross me?" Because in the end, love is a luxury for the powerless. Fear is the foundation of the sovereign. If you cannot make them love you without making yourself a slave to their whims, then make them fear you so that you may remain their master. We have reached the final stage of your awakening. You have seen the masks fall. You have felt the sting of betrayal. You have learned that fear is your only true shield. Now we must address the most terrifying realization of all. If you are doing anything of value, you will never be without an enemy. Machiavelli didn't view enemies as a problem to be solved. He viewed them as a metric of success. To him, an enemy is the shadow cast by your stature. If you stand in the sun, you have a shadow. If you stand for something, you have an opponent. You have probably felt a deep, aching desire to be liked by everyone. Your psyche requires social harmony because for thousands of years, being cast out of the tribe meant death. But we no longer live in the caves. In the modern world, the attempt to have zero enemies is a form of slow suicide. We must realize that universal approval is only possible for the invisible. If you are liked by everyone, it is because you have no edges. You are made of sand. You shift and crumble to fit whatever container people put you in. You have no core, no power, and no destiny. You have likely sensed that your most likable days were the days when you were doing the least. The moment you started moving, the moment you said no, the moment you claimed your territory, that is when the enemies appeared. Let's categorize the Machiavellian utility of the enemy, the compass of truth. Your enemies tell you exactly where your power lies. They don't attack your weaknesses. They attack the strengths that threaten them. Watch where they strike. That is your most valuable asset. The catalyst of growth. A friend comforts you in your stagnation. An enemy forces you to sharpen your blade. You are faster, smarter, and more vigilant because they are watching you. They are the unpaid coaches of your evolution. The proof of impact hatred is an investment of energy. No one wastes their breath hating someone who doesn't matter. If they are talking about you, plotting against you, or obsessing over your downfall, you own them. You are living rent-free in their minds. You have felt the pressure to bridge the gap and make peace. Machiavelli's ghost is laughing at you. Peace is often just a ceasefire, where your enemy gathers more stones to throw. We must accept that being hated by the right people is just as important as being loved by the right people. If the corrupt hate you, you are honest. If the lazy hate you, you are industrious. If the small-minded hate you, you are a visionary. Your psyche demands peace, but your ambition demands war. You cannot build a kingdom without displacing the dirt. You cannot light a fire without consuming the wood. You have likely sensed that the most influential figures in history, the ones we still talk about today, were the most polarizing. They were loved by their followers and despised by their rivals. They never sought the middle ground, because the middle ground is where dreams go to die. We are telling you to stop running from the conflict. Embrace the eternal enemy. Let their resentment be the wind in your sails. Let their whispers be the soundtrack to your rise. Machiavelli's final verdict on the matter is simple. The man who has no enemies has no followers. If you want to be followed, you must be willing to be hunted. Wear their hatred like a badge of honor. It is the only honest thank you the world will ever give you for being great. We have pulled back the curtain on the grand theater of human deception. You have looked into the eyes of the crowd and recognized the quiet hunger of their envy. Now you stand at a crossroads. You have probably felt the exhausting weight of trying to be enough for people who secretly want you to be less. Your psyche requires a final resolution. You can walk back into the fog of the common lie, continuing to trade your greatness for the cheap comfort of a neighbor's approval. You can keep pretending that if you are kind enough, the world will spare you, but the ghost of Machiavelli warns you, kindness is the path of the prey. We are here to remind you that the friction you feel, the animosity, the whispers, the cold stares is not a sign of failure. It is the friction of your ascent. To move upward is to leave the herd behind. To dominate is to become a target. Do not beg for their affection. It is a currency that devalues by the hour. You have likely sensed that your old self is no longer compatible with the world you are building. You are evolving into someone who doesn't ask for a seat at the table, but builds their own. Someone who understands that a rival's bitterness is the most sincere compliment you will ever receive. We leave you with this final decree. Abandon the search for a love that doesn't exist. Instead, construct your legacy on the granite of unshakable respect and the cold precision of influence. Be the creator of your own reality, not a victim of their expectations. The choice is yours, to be the universally loved, nice guy who will be betrayed at the very first opportunity, or to be a person with iron boundaries and clear goals whose favor others must earn. Your psyche demands a tribe, but we are forging a brotherhood of the enlightened. If you are ready to stop playing a character in a script written by mediocrity, then you have found your place. The truth we have shared is a burden that most will drop, but you are still here. If these words ignited the fire that society has tried to extinguish, then subscribe and join us. Activate your alerts, because we are just beginning to dismantle the false idols of the modern age. Study the strategy. Command the room. Own your power. The question is simple. Who in your life feels threatened by your growth? Don't answer me. Answer yourself. And if this perspective changed something in you, stay with us. Because we're not here to be liked. We're here to understand power.